The former Army private accused of leaking secret documents to WikiLeaks has gotten a transfer. U.S. officials today flew 23-year-old Bradley Manning, known online as Bradass 87, from the Quantico Marine Corps brig in Virginia to a state-of-the-art, as it's described to us, detention facility at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas. One, they say, is far less restrictive, where Manning will be able to interact with more than a half dozen other detainees and where he'll have better access to mental health care. The Pentagon's top lawyer says there was nothing wrong with conditions at Quantico, but the move does come amid protests over the former soldier's treatment in captivity. His lawyers say he was alone 23 hours a day, that he had to sleep naked, without blankets or pillows, and had to stand at attention, naked, in the front of the cell every morning. The former State Department spokesman, Crowley, resigned last month after he publicly called Bradley Manning's treatment, and I quote, ridiculous and counterproductive and stupid on the part of the Department of Defense. Crowley has said he does not regret making those comments. He joins us now from Washington. It's good to see you as always. Thank you.
Hello, Shepard.
I read the Politico article, and we'll get into a little bit. They said you were going rogue, and it sounds like you did so with a purpose. Is that true?
Well, I did not think that the treatment was consistent with our system of justice and how we handle, any inmate in a pre-trial situation. I think yesterday, the Pentagon, without saying as much, affirmed that the situation at Quantico had become, unsustainable. The level of solitary confinement and arduous nature of his treatment was inconsistent with how we normally handle soldiers or inmates in a pretrial situation. They've now, corrected that with his movement to Kansas, so it's the right step to take.
Think your words and subsequent resignation had anything to do with it?
Well, I don't think this was ever about me. I voiced my concerns because I could see the impact that this was having, the concern that was being expressed both within the United States and also around the world, and it was undermining the credibility of what is otherwise an important and necessary prosecution of Bradley Manning, because he has, in his release of information, classified documents to WikiLeaks, he has done harm to the United States and our interests. I support that prosecution. I thought that his treatment at Quantico had challenged the credibility of that prosecution.
You said that your words, that you didn't have anything to do with it, but you've been very clear in the Politico article and elsewhere that you felt like the words that came from your podium were important and that they served a higher purpose than just that of spokesperson for the State Department of the United States. In fact, you said to Politico this: I thought it was important to make sure that what we were saying and what we were doing would be consistent with not only our interests but our values. So I'm assuming that you're suggesting that requiring anyone charged with something and convicted of nothing to sleep naked and be held in solitary 23 hours a day is wrong.
Well, what at the State Department podium, I used to challenge countries like China, who had people that were disappearing, and we did not know the conditions under which their citizens were being held. For us to be able to credibly say to a China, to a Russia, to other authoritarian countries, take care of your own citizens, we have to be, in my view, above reproach. And the Bradley Manning situation had sparked widespread international attention. And as I said, I thought that it undercut our ability to lead on these important issues around the world.
A little bit more on your departure from the Department of State. This is also from the Politico article, the first interview that you gave on this matter. Politico wrote, when Thomas reported Crowley's statement, some of his friends thought he'd acted on a flax equivalent of a Freudian death wish, spontaneously combusting in the lab at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His critics in government, who'd long regarded him as too aggressive, even undisciplined, to speak from the State Department podium, viewed the statement as his latest gaffe. To Crowley, it was neither. It was just the latest step in his characteristically low-key decision to go just a little bit rogue, the latest step in a career spokesman's realization that words can have real power. Hillary Clinton said that at one point as well.
I didn't think I was rogue. I just thought that it's important. And remember, I served in government for 30 years. I started off in a military career during the Vietnam era, where there was a gap between what we said and what people saw on television, from the reporting from Vietnam. And I always was determined that in my government career, we would keep that gap as narrow as possible. For us to lead around the world in the future, we have to take aggressive action and then make sure that action is consistent with our laws and our values. And in this particular case, we've corrected what I thought was a mistake at Quantico.
And with the history at Pentagon, did you feel similarly about the treatment at Abu Ghraib?
Abu Ghraib and the pictures that emerged from there have done incredible damage, to the United States, and we have worked hard in the years since then to repair that damage and restore our leadership and credibility. But it just points out that whether it's Abu Ghraib, whether it's Guantanamo, whether it's Quantico, we are acquiring a reputation about how we treat people in custody, and it does undercut our ability to lead by example, and that was that entered into my thinking.
What about states' insistence that one of the leaders over in the Middle East might actually be a reformer, or that we're not in a war and that we haven't taken sides? Do you feel like these statements, which sometimes seem to be contrary to the facts before us, are unhealthy or unhelpful for the American people?
No, I think that what we're doing now in the Middle East is fully consistent with our interests and our values in promoting, more open and transparent and responsible, governments. We also have to recognize that there are limits. That while we can help to promote this transition that's going on, ultimately these decisions will have to be made, inside of Tunisia, inside of Egypt. The intervention that we have going on in Libya to make sure that the people of Libya have the opportunity to determine who will lead their country in the future.
It's my understanding you plan to begin teaching, and at the very end of the Politico article in question, you said, "I'm not a larger-than-life person. I'm short, bald, and old." What about a TV future?
Who knows, Shepard? I fortunately am developing a lot of opportunities, and we'll see what happens.
PJ Crowley, former State Department spokesman, friend of the program. PJ, it's good of you. Thank you.
A pleasure, Shepard.
Did you know the iPhone keeps a record of everywhere you go? Everywhere, at every moment of every day. And the information we have now learned is kept in a secret file on your phone. So what if somebody jailbreaks the thing? Oh my.